Hey now, welcome back to Lone Star Mini Restoration. Today I am welding my cross member onto my floor panel. Right, so what I have done is I have prepped both the cross member and the floor panel for the installation of my cross beam. My cross beam I salvaged from my pre-existing floor panel because there's really nothing wrong with that other than some of the flanges were rusted out, and I replaced those, or I am replacing those. And then I applied a POR 15 finish to the inside of the cross member and to the floor, to the top surface of the floor, because once I weld that cross member down, there will be no accessing the inside of the cross beam. And let me show you what I've done. Note to self: sequencing of installing the rear subframe. After I welded the heel board onto the new Heritage heel board onto the new Heritage floorboard, I decided I wanted to check fit everything again, just to make sure before I go to the next step. I started with putting the subframe into the heel board. I attached it there, and I attached it there. I was able to get one or both of those attachments in, but this rear subframe mount would not line up to save my life. I was pulling my hair out. I started checking the A-lot jig, my whole entire jig system. I started questioning this or that. Well, it turned out a simple thing. It turned out I conversed with a friend there in England, and between he and I, we just kind of talked through it, and trying various things, it turned out that I originally had Tech screws attaching the new boot floor to the panel that goes below the taillights, and I had a very large bolt going through that center hole right there. Well, I removed those. I removed the 6 screws and the bolt, and it kind of relaxed a little bit. Then what I did was I attached the rear subframe mounts first, that one and that one. And then when I did that, this sucker slid in beautifully. I mean, I couldn't have asked for it better. Now, consequently, this hole here was perfectly lined up. Now it's about half a hole off. However, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I forgot to support this panel back here. And so you can see I can pull that in easily with my fingers. So I'm thinking when I get the new back panel and the rear valance, I'm thinking all that'll line up. But note to self, when you're installing the rear subframe, when you're doing this kind of effort, floor, boot floor, everything, start by attaching the rear subframe on the backside on the boot floor. One there, and then check this guy. These guys lined up absolutely beautiful, and so now we're a done deal. I've removed the E-coating, then I marked it with tape, and then I scuffed up this E-coating to give this POR 15 a little bit better adherence. So I'm just going to take a disposable brush. Now this stuff is pretty daggum awesome. It defies all laws of fluid dynamics. It's like wonderfully thick, and yet it's extremely runny, which doesn't seem to match. Now the idea here is that the panel underneath the cross member is never going to see the light of day. And POR is good. It breaks down in sunlight. Well, if you're doing an external application, then you typically put a color to it, or you put a clear coat on it to keep the UV protection. But this area is never going to see the light of day, so I don't care if it gets dull. This stuff is fabulous. It's like it gets really thick, and it's self-leveling, which is really cool when it's finished. Obviously, I have to get this before I weld the cross member in place, because there is no getting to this after the fact. Yeah, there's a couple holes in the cross member that will allow you to get some sort of a spray nozzle in, but I'm doing it beforehand for now to get the bulk of it. I'll be doing some other stuff once it's installed to handle the welding that's been done. My brother-in-law turned me on to POR 15, and I've not had a chance to use it until now, and already I'm loving it. I have just now applied this stuff. It hasn't even been 5 minutes, and you can see what a beautiful finish it gives. I mean, look at the shine on that. Look at the reflection, and it self-levels. Now, there's no rust here now, but it will keep rust out, and if there were rust, it would basically stop it in its tracks. This stuff is pretty awesome. Again, my brother-in-law turned me on to this, and I've not had the chance to use it until now, and I'm already loving it. It looks fantastic. All right, top tip. Again, this is from my brother-in-law, who I have a great deal of respect for. He tells me when I'm done with POR to put a plastic bag over the lid. That way any spill from the POR won't basically adhere the lid to the can. So basically I'm taking half of a plastic bag, and I will close this up. This way it won't stick. And then once I'm done with that, got all these little clips. Once I'm done with again, this is a top tip from my brother-in-law, who has a good bit of experience with all this right now. Beautiful Chevy restoration that he's done. All right, so there's plastic bag, and I will refrigerate this. So here's the last step. The POR 15 has now dried, and while it was glossy upon application, it's now a beautiful, smooth, thick finish. I am now done welding the cross member to the floor panel. I've had it on and off. I'll show you the completed job here in a minute. I've had it on and off the floor, on and off the car multiple times. A couple lessons that I've learned. Relearn. Don't wear flip-flops when you're welding. Not a smart idea. A couple other things is you kind of have to be ambidextrous when you're welding, because when I was welding the crossbeam on, I had to use my left hand. I had to go vertical. I had to do it horizontal. So, you know, while I was practicing horizontal, all of a sudden I find myself, you know, kind of upside down or vertical, welding with my left hand, right hand. But all in all, I think it came out, with my skill set as it is today, I have done the very best that I can. Now I realize that when I get better, my skill set improves, then my very best will be a little bit, I'll set the bar a little bit higher. But as of today, I am done with the cross member. What I have done is once I had all the holes popped and everything ready to go, I put the crossbeam back into the sandblast booth. I blasted it just to make sure that there was no rust anywhere. I had a clean welding surface, and then I went through. Now, as I was welding, there were some holes that I blew. In fact, there's one right at the tunnel where it starts going up. I blew it big time. In fact, it took me a while to correct it, to close up the hole. I had to figure out how to close up the hole, but I did it. Anyhow, and then I cleaned it up. I initially left all of the plug welds a little bit proud, but then I went back and cleaned it up a little bit. Even though you'll never see it, there'll be sound dampening, there will be carpet, you'll never see all that. I want to know that I've done the very best that I can do. So, without further ado, let me show you the end result. What I did was, when I had it in the car, I had the A-Lod jig and everything situated, and making sure that this crossbeam was exactly where it needed to be. I welded this section first, 1, 2, 3, and then, well, there's 3 back here, 1, 2, 3, and then what I did was I went 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Basically, I went back and forth because I am not a pro metal worker yet. I'll never be a pro metal worker, but you know, I am still a novice, and I did not want this. I didn't want to start on one side and have the metal heat up and like distort as it goes across. So I wanted to start in the center where I knew it was accurate, and I welded one, and I always had an air gun with me. Did a plug weld, hit it with an air gun. Did a plug weld, hit it with an air gun. Plug weld, air gun. Plug weld, air gun. And I went back and forth all the way. And finally I got all the way out, and then I did the spot welding of the ends onto the beam. So you can see them here. We've got the spot welds there as well. But all in all, I believe, well, it's the best that I can do. But that sucker is in there. Then I went back and revisited this. I cleaned the heel board up a little bit, and now I am ready. I'm ready for the next step. All right, so the next step, what is the next step? I don't know. Well, I'm going to be fitting the floor panel back onto the car, back onto the shell, but also I think what I'm looking at right now, I'm investigating to see if it's safe, but I think I'm going to put the outer sill and all the brackets that go between the inner seal and the outer seal. There's several brackets along inside there. I think I'm going to go ahead and install those while the floor is out. At least I think I can do that. If I find out otherwise, then I'll have to put it on the car, and I may have to do that a little bit later. But that may be my very next step. I am waiting for a shipment from Mini Spares. It is due to arrive Monday sometime. And what that has, it has my left and right rear arches. It has the full back panel. It has the rear quarter that runs from, it includes the door seal, and it runs all the way to the arch. It'll give me that arch panel. It includes a bunch of stuff. Basically, it will allow me to complete the entire back end of the car. So that'll be in Monday. Meanwhile, probably tomorrow, unless I find out differently, I may start looking at the outer sills and putting it on the floor beam. Basically making sure the floor beam is solid and complete. Successful job. I've learned a few things along the way, in and out. Climbing in and out of that car was certainly a heck of a lot of exercise. But progress, absolute progress. All right, bye just now.